hey, Susan. Oh. Hi, Susan.
Hi.
How's your sanity?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am.
I have to turn, I was meditating for just a minute. My sanity's okay. I do a little morning meditation to sort of ground myself.
I hope so.
I hope you can't see me because I'm in my bathrobe. How are you? You look great.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, just chugging along.
I love your background.
Thank you. That's my favorite beach.
Where is it?
It's Kailua in the island of Oahu.
Oh, wow. That's so pretty.
Yeah, that's my Zen place.
Yeah, I can see that.
Just sit up in this area. Actually, it's reversed. But,
And I like your pretty necklace too.
oh, thank you. Yeah, I sit up here and just kind of watch the world go by.
Yeah. Are you in the classroom?
Yeah.
Or are you?
I'm in my office.
Oh, okay. Okay. So this looks like a good class.
Well, it's going to be. I try to keep it short because we all have short attention spans.
There's a word for that. I forget what it is, but yeah.
Yeah. Did you get the? Oh, you don't have the. Okay, let me send you the material so you can look at it.
Perfect.
Susan Henning. Yeah, because I don't think you were pre-registered, so you wouldn't have gotten it.
No, I didn't.
Shame on you.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, I just sent it to you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Ray, how are you?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Last time you helping me, I'm so appreciative. Now, what did you send to her?
Did you get it? The materials that we're covering this morning?
Oh, okay. Could you send to me, please?
Oh, I thought the front desk sent that out.
Sorry, I just joined.
Okay, let me, what is your email?
Ray Someno at pt.1.com.
Okay, what's your name?
Yeah, my first name REI.
Yeah.
And Someno SOMENO.
Yeah, got it.
At kw.com.
Okay, and Catherine, is it Nera Catherine Reagan? Because you didn't pre-register, you don't have the material, so I'm going to, hang on just a second, I'm going to need your email address so I can send them to you.
Okay, I'll go ahead and type it in the chat. Thank you, Laura.
Oh, thank you. Yes. Okay, Susan, you don't have to turn on your video, but Ray,
Yes.
Sarah, please turn on your video so I can see you.
Thank you, Laura. You don't want to see this.
Okay.
Annie?
There's nothing worse than teaching a class to a bunch of black boxes.
Oh.
Okay, let me know when you've got it.
I've got mine.
Ray, did you get yours?
Oh, let me check. Thank you.
Turn off my phone. Let me know when you get it.
I think, oh, not yet.
Pardon?
I
I
think,
got mine. Thank you, Laura.
oh, I got it. I got it. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you,
perfect.
Laura.
That way we're all on the same page. Like I said, I try to make these short and sweet because our brains can only take in so much information at one time.
It's true.
It's true.
Yeah, when I gave the RPA class the first 2 times, we did it in one chunk.
Wow.
Hell by the, yeah. I mean, that was a lot to take in. It was like drinking from a fire hose. And
That's a great way to put it.
good analogy. Yeah, yeah. Because it's just, there's just so much information, but I had to get it out there right away because we had people that were going to write contracts.
Of
And then
course.
after the first 3 classes, and then the next time go around, I broke it down into 2 classes. You know.
Laura, you are so knowledgeable. Last time, I really appreciate you helping me a lot.
You're welcome. Okay, so let's get started.
Sure, thank you.
Let me get my. Okay, is everybody seeing the probate agreement?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Actually, is that the one I wanted? Yeah. Let me double check to make sure that's the one I wanted. Hang on, I'm gonna switch back because I don't think I. Okay. You're now sharing. Stop sharing. Stop sharing. Okay. Close this. I'm gonna go back in. There we go. I think that's better. Ah, yeah, that one's better. Okay. Okay, can you see it now?
Yes.
Is it easier to read? The other one
Yes, it
was
is.
good. Yeah, I was looking at the other one. I'm going like, oh, this doesn't look too good. Yeah. Okay. So, as you know, as those of you, Nira, is it Nira? Am I saying your name right?
Oh, hi, Laura. It's Naraya.
Naraya. Thank you. Hey, I'm terrible. I can butcher any language in a heartbeat. I'm sorry.
It's all right.
Raya. Okay. Oh, that I can kind of remember that better because my youngest grandchild is named Anaya. So Anaya Naraya. Okay.
Yeah, that's pretty.
Okay. So how long have you been in business, Naraya?
I was licensed in July and then I signed with Keller Williams about 3 weeks after that.
Okay, so you're both of you and Ray are newbies.
Okay, cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
That way I can, when I'm talking, I can, because sometimes I get a class and everybody is seasoned. Like how I talk can be a little bit different and how I refer to things can be different. So Susan, yes, this is one of our wonderful transaction coordinators. Susan Henning.
Yes.
And that's why first thing I asked her is if her sanity was still intact.
So far, so good.
Okay, it used to be that probate had a separate contract from the RPA. And with the new release of the release of the new RPA, probate is just an addendum to the RPA. So it's a brand new form. And as it's staying in here, it's that it's is hereby incorporated to the purchase agreement. So it's a new form, and I will tell both of you, Susan and Naraya, that if somebody ever asks you to do a probate, you need to get help because it's a very specialized area. It's the way that, the court's involved and it gets very complicated. I've taken the class twice and I'm still, there's a couple things I still don't understand why they do it the way they do it. So just a pre-warning to make sure that you understand that, like I said, if somebody asks you to do it, say, I can, but because I don't have expertise in the area, I am going to bring in somebody to work with me that does. And that way you can learn on the go. Okay, and as it's stating here, there's different types of probate. It can be sold as part of the deceased person's estate, and it can be also sold by a conservatorship, guardianship, receivership. And A1 is kind of self-explanatory. The person who owned the property died. And that the trustee or the trustee is the person who has been appointed by the owner of the trust or the estate to dissolve their estate and distribute it. In the second case, these are normally done by court order. A conservatorship or a guardianship, receivership could be, conservatorship could be somebody who has Alzheimer's. And so they had to go to court. They didn't, the person doesn't have a will, they don't have a trust. So what they need to do is they need to go to court. They need to present documentation from multiple medical doctors that this person is no longer capable of making decisions. And it's a court order. The court gives them the permission to do that. And that's what this is, that's what they're talking about. And the same for guardianship and the receivership. Now, the thing that gets confusing, there's two different ways. There's court confirmation undetermined at the time of the offer. So at the time, they're not sure if they're going to have to go to court, if the court's going to, approve it or not. And so it's all kind of a little fuzzy, but you're acknowledging it. Now, the court confirmation, and this is why it gets very confusing, is the sale is contingent upon the court approving it. This is definite. So the court has taken, a lot of times this could be like a receivership where it's a foreclosure. I mean, not a foreclosure. When someone died without a will and without any, it's called intestate, that they died without a will. So that's when the court jumps in and they take control of the estate. So they want to make sure that, they're not getting gypped, that, when they sell it. And the way that they do it, that they have what they call a minimum, you can put an offer in, but it's not guaranteed that your offer is going to be the winning one, because another person can come in behind, like you, for instance, you can come in behind and put in an offer. However, that the minimum, what they call an overbid price, is, as an example, the initial offer was, or they set it at $100,000. The court says, okay, $100,000, we'll sell it. And then somebody said, okay, I'll take it. Well, then you come in and you say, no, I want it. So in order to be considered, minimally, I have to bid an additional $5,000 plus the 500. And I don't know why the 500, or maybe it's court fees or something, but it has to be 5% over the minimum price that they have set for it. So the total would be $105,500. That would be your bid. So it gets really complicated in this, but this is something that they've made sure that's being pointed out in these probates, because people come in and they bid wrong on the probate stuff. Okay. Purchase price offered must be at least 90% of the probate referee's appraised or reappraised value of the property. And again, this is so that the courts are being assured that they're getting fair value for the sale. The seller may remove the property from the court calendar if the buyer has not removed all contingencies, or only these contingencies that are checked below at least 10 days prior to the court confirmation hearing. So again, this gets a little bit more complicated. And in here, they're referring to the actual RPA for the liquidated damages, mediation, and arbitration. So this is how, these are new things that they put in to make it clear that
Hello, Diana.
with the confine of
Yeah.
the RPA. Does everybody understand that? Hello?
Mhm,
Yeah.
Okay, good.
mhm.
Wake up. This is supposed to be interactive, people.
Oh, okay. So,
Ray, if you're on the phone, you need to put yourself on mute, please. Okay, and then, now here's the new manufactured or mobile home purchase addendum. This is a brand new
oh,
addendum.
yeah, because I don't know
Ray,
where I
Ray,
should submit,
Ray.
and then I don't, yes,
I can mute
and maybe,
her. Oh, I didn't realize I could do that. Learn something new every day.
That's a good one to know.
Yeah. Well, people forget.
Yeah.
You know, we all do. So
Yeah.
this is the new one. This is the new form for the manufactured homes, which is, it's a 2-page addendum to the RPA. And people need to understand that, being that this is an addendum to the RPA, all of the rules and restrictions and guidelines in the RPA also additionally apply to this new addendum, because it's just that, it's just what it is. It's an addendum. And, you know, as Susan, as you know, there are different types of manufactured homes. You know, there is the personal property versus the real property. Yeah. And Naraya, just to make it kind of simple, a personal property manufactured home would be something that there's wheels attached and it can be taken away like a trailer. Versus, you know, in a lot of these parks, the manufactured home is actually put onto a foundation, and it's not easily movable, and it's anchored to the foundation. And so that is actually real property. So that's basically the simplest way. And as it says right here, there's also an assessor's parcel number associated with it, versus personal property or a manufactured home to be sold with personal property, which again was going to have an assessor's parcel number. I just lost my train of thought. Yeah, the personal property is, you know, like I said, it can be on wheels, you know, like because you have parks where they're just really temporary. You know, the wheels are still on the trailer. It's, you know, they just hook up. Whereas the manufactured real property homes are like in these, like South San Jose has several parks that have the manufactured homes. And they're on foundations. Does that make sense to everybody?
It does.
Okay. Yeah, it's kind of hard to explain it when you okay. Now in the description, right here, they're having these the HCD, the license decal numbers, serial numbers, and the label insignia. And these are Department of Housing and Community Development. That's what the HCD stands for. And where you're going to find these is on the back of each unit. Say, for instance, you have a double wide manufactured home. On each section in the back, there's going to be like a little red tag, and it's going to have these numbers on it. And that's where you're going to find them.
I didn't know it was actually on the structure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. If you look it up if you Google it, then you'll see a picture of it.
Okay.
And they're not always easy to find. I can tell you that one.
Yeah.
Okay, and it's talking now here, we're talking about the financial terms, which as we all know, and apply only to financing of personal property manufactured home extended by the seller under this agreement. Because a lot of times it's not uncommon in this area for it to have seller financing. And there's, as it's saying here, a clause requiring buyer to comply to the terms of any rental lease agreement entered in between the buyer and the park, the HOA. Now, one of the things I will warn you about is if you're representing a buyer in a mobile home park, the buyer has to go through the HOA process to be accepted. And it's been known to happen that for whatever reasons, maybe they found out they had a really long criminal history or something, that the HOA has rejected the person, so they can't live in the park. So they can't move forward with the purchase. So always advise your buyer that they're going to have to qualify with the HOA also, besides having their purchase contract accepted. So it's kind of like fire insurance, because people are buying homes now and finding out they can't get a fire insurance. And that causes problems with the lender.
Yeah. And it can be a very lengthy process.
Oh, yeah.
The only reason I know that is because we sold one for my father-in-law last year. And the buyers had to jump through many, many hoops to be approved.
Yeah, exactly. It's not a done deal.
No.
Okay, now, okay, and I want to point out this caution. Obligations secured by mixed collateral, both personal and real property, are subject to complex rules and court decisions under the civil law, commercial law, and the Code of Civil Procedures. Buyer and sellers are strongly cautioned to consult legal counsel in connection with securing and enforcing such obligations. And again, this is kind of unique because of the just the way it is in this world of mobile homes. Sometimes people will say, okay, well, I'll give you 80% in cash, and I'll throw in my truck because I'm not going to need my truck anymore or whatever. So they're mixing personal property with real property and loans and things. So, you got to be careful of that. Or it could be the reverse. It could be they're selling the real property and they're also including personal property. So it goes both ways. So again, just like with probate, if you've never done a mobile home sale, find somebody who has done it before. Now I know Robin and April have done several, if I remember correctly. And Paris Bradley is also a good person to tap because she's done several mobile homes. So they're more familiar with what the process is. And so if somebody wants you to buy or sell a mobile home for them, I would hook up with them and learn from them, because it's not a straightforward thing like we do with residential property. And again, seller documentation and additional disclosures. Make sure that you have everything done and it's ready to go. Real property manufacturer whoever that is, bless you. Okay, so manufactured homes, even when converted to real property. So this is personal property, like a trailer. They've taken the wheels off. It's been put on a permanent foundation that's anchored, and they've converted it to real property. Must comply with the HCD permit and approval requirements for alterations and repairs. So if they're doing, like they added on a sunroom to it, and you'll see this a lot of times, like up in the mountains. Somebody gets a mobile home and they convert it to real property, and then they add on a sunroom or another room, and they just kind of extend it. But what this is saying is that you still have to comply with all of the permits and the requirements for the county and everything. Nothing is different. It's all the same. And again, smoke detectors. We have a separate TDS. And residential application. This is what I was talking about earlier, because the buyer's approval of the lease or rental agreement, the buyer has to obtain, buyer obtaining residency approval on our contingencies of the agreement, because what good is it to purchase a manufactured home if you can't live in it because the park didn't approve you? So what you need to do is, excuse me, is to, within 5 days after the acceptance, submit a completed application to the HOA or whoever it is, and within the time specified in the agreement for the removal of the investigation of property contingency, or 5 days. Now this is going back to the RPA for the contingency. So on the RPA, that would be on the grid, it would be L3 for the investigation of property. And that's when the investigation of property is 17 days by default. Okay, and here the investigation of property, and if you leave it blank, it's 5 days after delivering of the park conditions for closing, whichever occurs later. Then either party may cancel this agreement. Okay, now we're getting into, this is, have you seen this yet, Susan?
Yes, of course.
I don't know if you've had to give anybody a notice to perform yet.
Yeah, a couple times.
Oh, bless your heart. And the notice to perform, for the buyer to perform, has been greatly changed from the last version of it, because it's more granular. And because of the new restrictions and everything in the new RPA, they've had to expand it. And as like in here on contingencies, buyer investigation, which includes insurability. Yeah, that's a biggie. Because sometimes you can get insurance, but it may cost you an arm and a leg. Modi had clients that bought up in the, I think it was the Cupertino foothills, if I remember correctly. And they had 0 contingencies. And they found out that their fire insurance, their homeowners insurance, because it was in a fire area, is $20,000 a year.
Wow.
Yeah. So people, be careful. You want to be careful with this. Also, and this is paragraph 8C. That's one of the things I love about this new format, is they're telling you where in the contract this is this is defined. Because before you didn't know. You'd have to go hunting through the stupid documents all the time. So this is telling you where in the contract to look. Review of seller documentation, including disclosures and reports. And again, it's giving you the paragraph where it's held.
That's great.
Yeah, easy access.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love this. This has been added. Buyer review of leased or liened items. because, you know, we have solar systems and things like that. And liened items. One of the more common ones that you may find is that California runs these programs for energy efficiency upgrades to your home. And they contract specific general contractors to do the, you know, they hook you up. I think the way it is that the state certifies the contractor, and then the contractor does the work. And then the lien is actually added to the property taxes. And it's a line, and it will show up on the prelim as another lien. So you need to be aware of that. You know, you should always look for that. And over on this side, contractual, this has like exploded compared to the old one.
Oh,
And again, they put in the paragraphs where you go look, which I love, you know, like the verification of funds. This is new, verification of loan application, because the buyer has to give verification to the seller that they have applied for their loan. They have to prove it. And the seller, again, if you go back to the contract, the seller now, it's very clear, the seller has the right to call the lender, to contact your lender, and to ensure that everything is going smoothly and that they are moving forward with the lender and that there are no problems. So this is why verification of the loan application comes in, because that will contain the lender's information. Assuming or accept lease or liened items. Contractual, this again, it gives you the paragraph, because this mainly comes in with solar systems. There are many solar systems are being purchased, so they're on a payment plan, and the loan is assumable. And there's also leased solar systems. And if it's leased, you need to find out prior, do you need to qualify to assume the lease? Or does the contract say that if it transfers, they have to pay the balance of the loan? And that's something a lot of people didn't think about. So always find out, you know, make sure you're finding this out, but you know, you've gone through the documents and you're able to assume or accept the lease. Okay, return. This is really holding the buyer's feet to the fire. Because this is saying that they have, if you look at paragraph 11C and D, you have to return the documents within a specified time. It's no more, you know, you don't have to go around chasing them. And let's see, and it says right here, what is it? CD. Yeah, 3N. Because what it is basically saying is that if you look at the contract, it says seller delivery of documents, they have 7 days to deliver the documents. And the buyer has 5 days to return everything. So they're holding the buyer's feet to the fire because they have to return things. Also complying with title's efforts to comply with the GTO. And this is if it's over $300 and it's cash, or 300,000 in cash, then there's a form that has to be completed with escrow because of money laundering issues. They want, because you have to find, yeah, that's why they're doing this, because of money laundering. And what they're doing is that I guess what they're doing is that they're investigating where the money came from. So the government is looking into that. They got their little fingers into everything.
yeah.
Assignees delivery of pre-approval, pre-qual. Okay, did that happen? Paragraph 23. Okay, and again, we go back to the contract, paragraph 23. I forgot to underline this one. Duh. Okay. 6A, paragraph 3K. So again, you have to deliver these things back. Delivery of the increased deposit. If you have an increased deposit, you have to show proof that this has happened. Delivery of evidence of authority to act. Okay, and I think these are wrong, I think, because this should be, and this is talking about delivering to the to escrow. If entities are involved, LLCs or a trustee, because some people buy their properties through their trust. So they have documents that must be delivered within 3 days to escrow to show that they have the authority to be signing for the entity or the trust. And people say, well, you know, if it's a living trust, you know, then obviously it belongs to the person who's signing this. No, that's not true. How many people do you know the father and son have the same name?
Mhm.
So that you have to prove you are who you are and you're authorized to do it. So if you have the Tom Jones family trust, it's not, and it belongs to the father. This is being done so Tom Jones, the son, is not behind the father's back selling off the properties. Because they have the same name.
Yeah.
This is where this falls in, is delivering these documents and proving you are who you say you are. Or if you're an LLC, we had this happen not too long ago. I think it was one that you were coordinating, Susan. It was, I think it was an LLC, and we discovered that the person who signed all the documents was not authorized.
Sounds like one of ours.
Yeah. So we had, everything had to go back and everything had to be re-signed.
Yes.
It was a nightmare.
Nightmare.
Yeah. So please be careful. You know, this is one of the things that you need to be aware of. You know, and when you're working with sellers and it's in a trust, remind them in 3 days, you know, once we sign this, you need to be taking your documents up to escrow so they can verify your trust. If your buyer is an LLC or in any type of entity or a trust, let them know they're going to have to be taking their documents up to escrow to prove that they're the ones that are authorized to sign. And it needs to be done within 3 days. Okay. Oh, and before I forget, notice to performs on either side. It can be delivered no earlier than 2 days prior to the date it is supposed to end. So for instance, if I have contingencies like on the property, and I'm due to release the contingency on Friday, I can give a notice to perform on a Wednesday, which is 2 days to perform. Because remember, Wednesday is 0, and then Thursday is 1, Friday is 2. If I gave it to them on Monday, it's void. You cannot give it early.
Okay.
And you have to give them 2 days to perform. So if contingencies are supposed to be released on Friday, and then you find out that something is going a little sideways or something happened in the selling, but you still want to, as the listing agent, you still want to keep that pressure on, even though they told you, you know, I personally, what I would do is I would just tell the buyer's agent, well, just so you know, I'm sending you a notice to perform because, you know, that's part of the process. I just want to make sure that, you know, if something should happen, I can prove that, you know, I was doing my job. And don't take it personal. It's just, this is a matter of process.
Yeah.
So give them warning and send it. And then by Monday, they have to be releasing everything. And notice for the seller to perform. It's the same thing. The same rules apply. You can't give it early, but Now they've added things for the seller that they didn't have to do before. Is fire hardening and defense space advisory disclosure and addendum. Okay, that has to be, these have to be completed. This is now statutory, this is new. So the feet are under the fire. And the thing that you need to understand, if you don't deliver, for instance, like the TDS or the SBQ, things that are statutory, if they are not delivered at the time that the offer is brought in, and say for instance, it's the seller's just a procrastinator. Well, and then you get a zero contingency offer and they think, oh, everything's just fine and dandy. And it's zero contingency, so there's no way out. If you have not delivered a statutory disclosure and you deliver it the next day, the buyer still has 5 days to rescind. That triggers the 5-day rescinding order. So don't think that, and that's why it's key when you're representing the listing side that you have everything ready to go. It's packaged. Is, you know, hopefully you're using something like Disclosure IO. It's all itemized. You know, everything is in there, and they download the documents, and therefore there is no way for them to back out. But if you're on the buy side and they forgot something, or if they have to change, especially it's like the TDS SBQ, if they have to change something, that opens up the window for the 5 day of rescission, right? 5 days to rescind. Does that make sense to you guys?
It does.
Okay. Yeah, that's why it's critical. I can tell you, and Susan and I have gone through this so many times, that it's critical that everything is done on time and is ready to go, especially on the listing side. Because you, as the listing side, you don't want to open up that window. So if you deliver something late, then you're just exposing yourself, because say, for instance, okay, the contract says you have 7 days. And I wait the 7 days to deliver the TDS. Well, because once you deliver it within that day seven, I delivered it day 7. Now the buyer has 5 days to rescind. So that brings it out to day 12.
Yeah.
So the buyers had 12 days to rescind the contract, and you don't want that. Does that make sense?
Totally.
Uriah, did that make sense to you?
Yes, it makes total sense.
Okay. Yeah, and timing is of utmost importance. Okay, demand to close. They've changed this. They've put in here that in which at least 5 days after delivery for the demand. And you can't deliver it early. If you give it too early, then it is null and void. And I will give you a good example of this. And we played it to our advantage. One of our agents was involved in a deal, and he was personally involved in the deal. He was the one who fronted the EMD, and it was over $85,000 for the earnest money down. And the people he partnered with originally said, oh, everything's going to be cash. And then they changed their minds, and they were going for a hard money loan, and everything was going sideways. And he calls me and says, oh my God, the seller's really upset because we were going to pay cash, and then we changed it to a loan, and they're threatening to cancel the contract, and we're supposed to be closing on Friday, and we're not going to be ready by Friday, and yada, he was just totally freaking out. And my question was, well, have they served you with the demand to close? Not yet. Well, the next day they did, and that was Tuesday. Guess what? Susan?
What?
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So over the weekend he got the demand to close on Monday. They were supposed to close on Friday. So what does that mean?
Mm,
It was
it's null.
It's null and void because it was delivered too early.
That makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what I told them, I said, do not say a word. Let
Okay.
her think that everything is okay. And then they're going to call you, they're going to start whining at you on, I'm not sure what the days are right, but for the example, I'm just saying Monday through Friday. So on Friday, when she calls and says, well, you either, close today or we're canceling, your reply is going to be, well, I'm sorry, but your notice to perform is null and void because you sent it to me too early. So if you want to send another demand, that still gives me 3 more days.
Yeah. And that's just a lot of extra aggravation for everybody.
Yeah. However, what it did was it gave him enough time to recover everything.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So it's one of those things. Timing is critical.
Yeah.
So you have, and for you, Ray, and Naraya, your first hire is going to be a transaction coordinator. You need to know what's needed. You need to understand when things are required and not required, what needs to be done, and things need to be filled out and things like that. But your job is not chasing paper. Your job is to close the deal and to control what's happening in between the time that you execute the contract and the time you close. It's the transaction coordinator is the one who's going to be trailing the paperwork. And I'm sure you do, Susan. The transaction coordinator gives you a schedule and saying, this date this happens, this date this is due, this date that's due, this date this is due, this date we're closing, this date, and you have a whole list.
Right.
Other things are supposed to be happening, and it's your job to keep track of that.
Yep.
And that's why it's key that you know these dates, and when you can serve a notice to perform or a demand to close and how many days you can give them, because there are limitations and restrictions on when these things can be done. It can be critical. If you screw it up, they can walk away. You just don't know. So be very, very, very careful with things like this. Because Lord knows we've been through this enough times. Oy, oy, oy. Okay. Da, 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 da. Okay. They've also changed the form for the seller multiple counter offer. And it's and they're spelling things out more. Liquidated damages. I love this. For multiple excuse me, I'm losing my voice again. Okay, the liquidated damage in arbitration disputes paragraph of the offer for each required, everybody has to initial. And if they're not initialed, that paragraph will be excluded from this unless you add it in. And actually, they made a mistake. They needed to correct this. It says right here, paragraph 1C, and it should be 1D. You need to add that in. And where this comes to play, and I've had somebody try this on me, a buyer submitted an offer, and they purposely did not initial the liquidated damages in arbitration. And they thought, and then when I questioned them, they said, I asked the buyer's agent, I said, I noticed your clients didn't sign this, can you tell me why? And she goes, well, English is their second language. And they didn't really understand it. And my reply to her, and she says, and I had difficulty because I don't speak Chinese. And my reply to her is, well, I'm sure somebody in your office speaks fluent Chinese. And and we countered that they had to initial, otherwise we were not moving forward. And this is where you would put it in, is in this paragraph right here. And another thing that is a big change is this, B. say you have $1 million offer and 3% down. And I counter and say, well, no, I want $1.1 million. The deposit amount for the EMD does not go up unless it's in here under other terms.
Okay.
That's new. And you need to watch that. So if you want them to increase the deposit, it has to be in the counteroffer. Yeah, that's a new one.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't know where that came from. It must, well, for the newbies, for Ray and Naraya, these changes are normally done based on court decisions. Somebody sued somebody over something, and this was the court decision. So now they've incorporated it into the contract. And that's when we see changes in the contracts. So there must have been a lawsuit about that. And it was the court's decision that raising the price does not necessarily automatically raise the deposit.
Good to know.
Yeah, I gotta watch that.
Yeah.
And then also what they've added in is these new ones. This was all added in because now what we're seeing a lot of, especially the SIP right here, is the seller remaining in possession. That is probably the most common one we see now. Because things are selling so fast and closing so fast, the seller doesn't have enough time to move out. So what they're doing is they're getting an SIP so they can stay in an additional, 2 weeks or whatever to get out. And I want the newbies, Ray and Naraya, to notice that the SIP is used occupancy up to 29 days. Once it's more than 29 days, you have to use the RLAS. And basically it's basically a lease. And be very careful with this if you're representing a buyer and the seller saying, oh, well, I need 60 days. You better check with your lender because some lenders will not allow this because they consider it now it's a rental property. So it's not a primary residence. You've just converted it to an investment property. So check with it will behoove you to check with your lenders, whatever lender they're using, even prior to going out and putting offers in. You don't want to wait until after the fact. You need to know ahead of time. And while I'm thinking of it, this is a side comment, please read your prelim. You should know when you're writing the offer if the property is being held in a trust or is held by an LLC, because then you're going to have to fill out paragraph 32 on the RPA. And we see this all the time that people forget to fill it out. And then we have to have another document, which is called the RCSD, which is the representative capacity to sign, which goes back to previously when we were talking about when you're in contract and you are a trust or an entity, you have 3 days to turn everything into escrow so they can verify your authority to sign. So it kind of all wraps up together. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's my favorite.
Yeah. Okay, now expiration. Now this is a good one because in here it says that in order to be accepted, signed by the buyer, and a copy of the multiple counter signed by buyer is personally received by seller or seller's authorized agent. And this is kind of a grayish area because of the way that the wording is done. But if you look at your contract, your RPA, it's on page 13, paragraph K. they have now changed the definition of delivered. And see, in this case, they used received. So this is going to cause a problem, I can see, because on the new definition of delivered, if you are sending to the address, say you're representing the buyer, and I send it to the address that's on the contract that for the listing agent, the moment I hit send, that's considered delivered.
I like that.
Right. However, what's going to cause a problem is this is saying received. Now, the reason they changed delivered, the definition of delivered, is because there were so many cases of the other side saying, oh, I never got it. Well, if they sent it to the right place, to the right email address that was on the contract, then it is considered delivered. There is no more, I didn't get it. However, for some reason, they have left this as personally received. So this is going to be up to question. I can see that this is may have to change right here, but be very careful. If you send in, and if personally, what I do is when I send in a counter offer, something like that, I text the other agent or call them to verify that they received it. Okay, and also just to remind people that making this counter offer, any previous offer or counter offer can no longer be accepted. So there's no, oh, well, I want to go back to what I wanted before. I changed my mind. How many times have you heard that, Susan?
Oh,
Yeah, yeah. Okay. And I threw this in now for you newbies. Pay attention, because this is, and Susan can tell you, this is one of the things that drives me out of my mind. Is I don't want to see this, all of this blank, because my first thought is, were you really there?
yeah.
You know, and what the verbiage, you should never, you don't use adjectives. If there's a crack that goes from ceiling to floor, you don't say there is a large crack going from the ceiling to the floor. No, you say there is a crack going from ceiling to floor. You never use the word it is mold. You use the phrase appears to be mold, because you're not licensed to determine if it's mold or not. So do not use adjectives. It appears to be mold, or it appears this, or it appears that. There are cracks in the driveway. You don't say how big or small. But I should be seeing something in here. And I don't see it so much from this office, but I have seen it from EXP and other places that they've actually drawn a line right through this.
Wow.
Yeah, I guess I was speechless. Or they just put none, 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 none.
I've seen that many times.
And what does that mean? It means nothing. And the reason I'm pointing these out to you is because you are a professional. You should be doing your job. And let me tell you, I can just guarantee you is if something happens and this ends up in court, this will bite you in the rear. They will use this to say that you're sloppy and you're not doing your job. And if you're in, I had this happen once already, and I had to go back to them, that they were working with an agent out of the area because their buyer was buying out of the area, and they wrote the contract, but somebody else did the avid, but the agent here signed the avid. Do not do that. If somebody else did the inspection for you, they need to be on the AAA, and they need to be signing this form, not you. Now, a nice thing about this, oh man, I'm doing really good in time. Oh, miracle. It used to be on the old form that the buyers had to sign. And for whatever reason, that freaked people out. And we've had so many times, and I'm sure you've seen it, Susan, where we go back and forth and telling the listing agent, your buyers need to sign this and yada, da, 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 da. And, you know, it's like, they don't want to sign it because they disagree. So what they did is it just says, the initials below are not required, but can be used as evidence that the initiating party has received the completed form.
Oh,
So
for the seller.
sellers do not any longer have to sign. Thank you, Lord.
Okay,
Yes, isn't that wonderful?
yeah. But they do have to initial.
No, they can, nope, not required.
Oh, not required. Okay,
Yes. Hallelujah. Yes. And again, here's your contingency removal. This is new. They've made it more granular because it's like the entire contingency's been removed, or only part of the related to inspections concerning physical attributes,
oh boy,
or all buyer's investigation other than physical attributes, or the entire investigation contingency except also review of the seller's documents are now in there. So I'm removing the contingency. I'll only review, I can say review of all seller's documents, right?
okay,
It removes only the following individuals. So if I didn't get all my documents, I would leave this blank. Review of all, if I didn't get all the documents, I would say, I would use this one, except for government reports, statutory or otherwise disclosure, paragraph 11. Now, this is a biggie because of HOA docs in the TDS and the SPQ and the NHD. Those are the big ones. And this is a reminder, once all contingencies are removed, buyer may not be entitled to return a buyer's deposit if buyer does not close escrow. This could happen even if lender does not approve buyer's loan. So it makes it very clear, you remove all the contingencies, there's no going back. And it doesn't make any difference if the lender decides you're no longer qualified, well, you better hustle up and find a new lender or pay cash.
yeah,
Because if you can't perform and the seller cancels on you, there's a good chance that the buyer could lose their deposit.
yeah.
So that's it for today. Hey, I did good in time. Yay.
That was a good class, Laura. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm just hoping I didn't bore you to death.
No, all good stuff. And I wish I could have the time to take more classes, but I'm glad I had the time this morning.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Well,
Yeah.
this was recorded,
Right.
but, and again, for you newbies, it's being professional means doing the work, because you're getting paid good money to do this. So you need to, be professional, make sure everything's done. And Susan will verify this. I never want to hear it was my TC's fault.
No, we don't want to hear that.
Because you as an agent are responsible for supervising the work of your TC. And you are responsible as the agent for reading the preliminary report, the title report, reading the TDS, the SPQs, going through all of the inspections and disclosures. That is your responsibility as the agent.
Yeah.
It's not your TC's problem. So just be professional, do a great job, because, I was telling our OP, Eric, I said, one of the things I promote is excellence. We want to show that the agents in this office are excellent. We're true professionals. We do our job and we get it done right. And I thank you guys for attending.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Naraya, do you think this was worth your time?
It most definitely was. Thank you, Laura.
You're welcome. And I'll be hopefully I'll see you guys in a couple of weeks when I teach my next class.
All right,
That
sounds
sounds great.
Bye.
I have a good day.
Good day.